back to our second episode of Sunday Sentiments, where our panel comes together and discusses current events and hot topics from all over the world. The first topic of today will be COVID-19 with a specific focus on Sweden's response. So for those of you that don't know, Sweden has had some lax restrictions which have been criticized by other nations in the world. At least compared to other countries, these restrictions. Many countries have had much stricter restrictions, like Denmark, where the amount of people who are allowed to meet for private events is down to 10 at this point because of the amount of people who are infected. Sweden's own government website stated that the number is at a maximum of 50 for private events and 300 if you are seated and with a meter's distance between you. They've also only recently closed down any non-essential travel to and from the country. The numbers since the pandemic started have been 2,000 and below until October 23rd, where it just skyrocketed, and now they're at 6.5 thousand newly infected every single day. Keep in mind that this is a country of 10 million people that has already infected 208,000, with 6.5 thousand passing away. Now, knowing this information, I wanted to ask the panel their own opinions on this topic, Sweden's approach, and as well as their own country's different response to it.
Okay, I'll just go. I have to say I was very surprised by Sweden's approach, and for the longest time, they were adamant that this is the way we're doing it, this is how we're gonna deal with it, and we're not gonna have any lockdown restrictions. And obviously the rest of the world was watching, some were judging, and I mean, personally, obviously I'm not the leader of Sweden, but I just found it a very strange way to deal with the situation, because it might have seemed like it was working before, but as we know currently, the rates are really going through the roof, and the people that suffer are the ones that have sort of been sacrificed, are the vulnerable and the elderly. So I don't know why they chose to do it that way, but you know, it's been a new pandemic. I suppose nobody had dealt with something like that in recent years, and I think everyone was just experimenting with what they thought was best. And I don't know, you're from Denmark next to Sweden, so, and we've got some other people from Denmark here, so I don't know, maybe you can tell us what you thought of Sweden not closing the borders, Swedish people being free to come in and out of your country. How did that make you guys feel? Because yes, they've made their decision for their country, but it was now when the borders are open, it means that you're also impacted. So what did you guys from Denmark think?
I want to say that initially when Sweden took this approach, the man in charge of this said that Sweden was taking this approach so that people are given the power to choose behavior. This is behavior, to choose what behavior to have. The government was not going to dictate to people what they should do. People are clever enough and mature enough to decide to do the right thing. That was his approach. So the question remains, when you have such a pandemic that decimates a big number of people, should the decision be left to the population, or should the government be the one to decide what should be done? Because at the end of the day, they ended up losing a big number. They put their neighbor countries at risk, because we have people who go through the bridge between Sweden and Denmark. They commuters from Sweden to Denmark and vice versa, that were coming with the virus, or the potential risk of bringing the virus here in Denmark, while there was what do we call it? There was a lockdown in Denmark. So was it responsible? In my opinion, I don't think it was responsible, because when you have something like a pandemic that affects a lot of people, not just your country, but other people then the government should come in and give those restrictions. When you give people the option, of course, people are mature enough to decide what is right and wrong, but pandemic is not mature enough to choose who is mature. It will come to everyone. So the government should have had a hand in giving restrictions, not leaving it open to people. What do you think, the panel?
Shira?
I think the government was rather naive in leaving it up to the citizens to voluntarily social isolate or wear masks, because we know very well that most people, especially the young people, are not that disciplined enough, because they think the disease only affects the older ones, but they don't know that they put their parents, their older parents, their grandparents, and other vulnerable people are in their homes at risk. So I think the government should have taken a more strict approach and not leave it to the citizens.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that completely. We've had the same problem here as well, where people are going to parties, and that's when the numbers start going up again, because people do get relaxed and, you know, just let it get out of hand in that way. Antonella?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving me the word. Of course, it is hard to express an opinion because I am not scientist. I'm not an epidemiologist or a scientist. But so my opinion will be never specific as one of a scientist. But anyway, I also, first of all, I will give my opinion to Sweden, and then I will make a comparison between Sweden and Italy. So Swedish restrictions are crazy. I mean, how can you say to people, you can decide on your own whether to wear the mask or not? But this is also in the US, it was not compulsory. Only now Joe Biden has been saying only these can save a life by pointing at the mask. So of course, we are democratic countries, Italy, the UK, France, Denmark, Sweden, and all the European countries that are in the Schengen area, that are in the EU, are all democracies. But in this case, it was not supposed to be democratic, the decision of wearing a mask, personally speaking. So it was supposed to be compulsory because it's priority of all saving lives, according to age, color, countries. Everyone deserves to be alive and not to get coronavirus. Second thing, usually there are always comparisons between countries from Southern European countries that are always depicted as countries that have an economic debt which is superior to countries from Northern Europe. So I think that the Swedish approach was also related to priority to economy. In Italy, the situation is that in this current moment, we are not in a second lockdown, but on the other hand, our Prime Minister is and his scientific technical commission have different kind of restrictions to avoid the lockdown. So, for example, in the weekends, all the malls are closed. During the weekdays, all the bars and restaurants close at 6 p.m. and after they are open, but only for takeaway or for example, delivering food at home. So some examples of restrictions to avoid lockdown that are possible. Thanks.
Thanks, Antonella. I want to mention, you mentioned something about the economy. And at the end of the first lockdown here in Denmark, because it appeared like Sweden's economy maybe benefited from not having a lockdown, but analysts did an analysis after lockdown restrictions were lifted in Denmark, and the economy didn't do any better than the Danish economy, just slightly better, but they had more people dead. So the question is, are you prioritizing economy or people? And does it even make a difference, that huge a difference, that you'd let a large number of people die to keep the economy open? It's a big discussion. Economists have something to say about it. Epidemiologists have something to say about it, but we as laymen, we can just give our analysis.
Yes, and also to the thing about bars that you mentioned, where you guys close at 6 p.m. on weekends. I feel like Italy in general, because they reacted after they already had the big wave, I feel like the restrictions that you're telling us about now are a lot more strict and actually seem like they would help, because even in Denmark, they don't sell any alcohol after 10. And also the bars close at 10, which is fine as a time, but because of this, people stay there until the last minute, and then right when it closes down, all of the train stations and bus stops are all flooded with people who have to get home after going out. So Italy did handle it a lot better. McKenna?
I personally think that it wasn't that clever giving the people the decision to decide, because a pandemic is something like most countries haven't really seen before. So a lot of the people would have been in panic and not actually sure what to do. And like they should have left that decision up to the government instead of leaving it to the people who've never dealt with something like that, never been trained to deal with something like that, and they're just confused as to what they're supposed to do. So I just think it was really stupid.
Yes. Jamila?
Yeah, I agree with what McKenna said. Personally, I think if we were on our second pandemic, that would make sense because people now, with the guidance of what the government has told them, they can go on that and actually have something to base their decisions on. But if it's never happened before, how are people supposed to know how to deal with it by themselves? It's just, it doesn't make sense at all. Especially here, we didn't even have like something like what Sweden did, but the lack of leadership and then everyone else just getting bored and tired of like not being guided or stuff being explained to them. They just get tired, and then people end up breaking the rules because they're like, well, if the government's not bothered by it, why should we be bothered?
That's very true. Um, yeah, also in general, I feel like the governments did believe that having a pandemic, just the fear of the death was what would keep people in line, which did help at first, which if you look at any graph of the infection numbers all over the world, at first it was going extremely well, but then people get tired, like you just said, and just don't want to wear the mask anymore, don't want to stay inside anymore, and just completely become lax in their own protection, which also ends up spreading the virus a lot more and quicker.
Kinda had something to say.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, I just want to say exactly what you said, Shakira. The first lockdown, everyone was really follow the restriction, and everyone really careful in the street, in any place. Everyone really careful and wearing mask. Now in the second lockdown, no one never care about it because I'm using a bus every day. Now a lot of people in bus don't use a mask. Before, the driver don't let anyone to come to the bus without mask. Now everyone just come and go out without mask. In supermarket, a lot of people, it's the stuff, no one wearing mask. Like no one just want to do it. And now a lot of shops in the city center, it's still open. Yes, before a few days I went like Marks and Spencer, it's still open. Like normal, like nothing happened. You feel it's the life, it's normal. I think if the people don't want to be careful or protect themselves, the government can't do anything. She can't say, okay, we are in lockdown, everything, we should to pay a lot of money if you just broke the restriction. But if the people don't want to do that, I think the government can't do anything.
Well, may I say something? Actually, I very disagree with this because in Europe, different countries are approaching the coronavirus in different ways. There is no one is better than the other, but we all have to think together as one, because sooner or later, the borders in the Schengen area will be open again. And so a French person that will go to Slovakia, then to Sweden, then to Italy, then to the UK, this person will spread the coronavirus. So the countries that are part of the EU, that are part of the Schengen area, must have only one approach, because and to implement the cooperation for what concerns health. It doesn't make sense that we are so different in approaching it, because
that's what I am saying.
problem.
Yeah, because the people should be responsible to do that. The government can't do anything if the people don't want to take this responsibility.
But people obey to the government. So to European level, they must say it's compulsory to wear a mask. People cannot say I don't want to wear a mask. People must wear the mask. This is not something related to democracy. It's not a free decision. People must wear a mask to save lives, not only themselves.
Shiko?
I think that's the difference then, or the issue really. And Kinda is right in a way, and so is Antonella. Kinda, you're basically saying, and I think this is what the Swedish government was thinking. It's better if people think for themselves that we need to do the right thing, and this is what we should do. Because when you tell people what to do, especially in democratic countries, in the end, they get tired of being told what to do, because it's in the psyche that it's a democracy, we need to choose for ourselves. So they might follow the instructions for the first few months, but if it's something that's going on indefinitely, and we've seen that in the UK as well, people get tired and they stop listening to the government. And that's the difference between countries in the West, I think, and countries like China or Kenya, where Antonella, you're right. That's why I'm saying you're right. It shouldn't be a democracy issue. But unfortunately, people think of it like that. This is a democracy. We can do what we want. But something like this, unfortunately, you need to deal with it the way Korea did, maybe even the way China did. When you say you have to wear masks, it's you have to wear masks, and there are consequences if you don't do it. So not just saying it, but there needs to be some sort of enforcement, or people think, well, it's my choice. If I don't, what are you going to do to me? And that's, I think, the issue with the Western world is approaching it in that sense of we're democracy, we can't force people, we need to let them decide. But at the end of the day, it's a pandemic, and you need to be a bit tougher when you come to these restrictions and leaving it to the will of what people want to do.
Because people's lives are at risk. It's
Yeah,
not.
lives are at risk. It shouldn't be soft, you know. Antonella, Italy had to go very tough for people to listen. If you're very just relaxed like the UK, like lockdown, but you know, you can go for a walk and the schools are not closed, then people don't take it seriously, because you can wear a mask, but maybe you don't need to wear a mask because maybe you have an issue with your health. I don't know. It just gives people a lot of leeway to not follow the restrictions.
You
Also,
know, Chico, because usually Spain, Italy, Greece, Portugal are always depicted as lazy countries, but in general. But in this case, it's not true, because I personally, when I heard about the Swedish approach, I felt fooled because are we stupid? Are we more stupid than the others? I mean, here, if you don't wear a mask and police stop you, you are forced to pay 400 euro. And also here, people are not happy with the rules, of course. But every day, the Prime Minister talks about the transparency. We have to do sacrifices. They are also trying to implement a more cooperation at an international level.
So it looks like there's a different approach in Northern European countries to Southern, because in the North, and this is what I think the issue is, when people are given that leeway to just decide for themselves, of course they're not going to follow the rules. I think if there's a pandemic, you have to put the whole democracy, blah, blah, to the side and think about saving lives, and the restrictions should be tougher, and following the restrictions should be enforced. And I don't mean people getting thrown in jail or something, but there needs to be some sort of repercussion.
Yeah, Shiro had something to say. I saw her hand up.
I was going to say that in Kenya, they've taken a different approach, of course. You cannot ask people to wear a mask voluntarily. They won't wear masks. So now they're arrested by the police. I know this cannot happen in the West, I guess. You're arrested and you're fined quite a lot of money. So people wear the masks, not because they're afraid of Corona or COVID-19, but because they're afraid of being arrested by the police. But I think that approach has worked better because we've had, people are expecting that in Africa, people would be dying like flies from COVID-19, but it hasn't happened like that. As soon as we had the first case, the government took immediate action and put up some very strict regulations and laws, to try and curb it. And so far, I think it's better. We are doing better than some of the Western countries, I have to say.
I have to point out
for switching the prejudices as well in this period.
Yeah, but I have to point out that it's not every Western country or Northern country that is taking it easy. Here in Denmark, if you don't wear a mask in public transportation and in closed places like centers, hospital, you get a fine of 2,000 krona. So people are wearing masks because, like you say, there's that punishment. So apparently at the end of the day, there has to be a punishment for people to follow rules, and I don't know.
There has to be repercussions. And
Yeah.
Keshi, I know you're saying it's not all, but Denmark, as well as the UK and a lot of Northern European countries, took quite a while to get around to the mask situation and the lockdown. Denmark took a while to be serious about reducing numbers of people meeting together in public. And I remember seeing pictures of Danish people in cafes having coffee in the middle of the pandemic in large groups. So it's a different approach. Like Antonella said, you have to, in a pandemic, the government really needs to be tougher and direct people, not leave it up to the public, because we're not trained to deal with this kind of risks. And I know it's the first time in a long time, so they're not sure either, but they're definitely paid more and trained to deal with this kind of situation than just the person on the ground in the streets. So yeah, maybe we should move along, but let me pass you back to Shakira.
It just seems Mill had something to say, and then we're going to move on to our next topic.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the same thing as Shiko. I think that at the end of the day, if any of the governments are just weak in any type of way and they don't try to push the restrictions, we all end up in the same boat. Because at the beginning I was like, my cousin Imani was like, wow, the UK is just being so bad with lockdown and stuff. But now I'm seeing that we're in lockdown too, but in Denmark, I'm seeing people going to bars and stuff. And since it closes at 10, it's like they'll just take the party somewhere else afterwards, which is what we were doing, because our government ended up just being really lazy with their decisions, which just ends up being like a train wreck.
Yeah.
Maggie had a point too, I think.
Okay, what I wanted to say, maybe if you can allow me, I just wanted to give an example of Tanzania. Tanzania, they don't have restrictions. You don't wear a mask. Actually, if you go there wearing a mask, you'll be locked in.
What?
Yes, they don't believe Corona is there, and it's only Tanzania that don't believe they have Corona. Even though I saw a post yesterday on Facebook where a Tanzanian commented and said, oh, they were left. They were just left to do what they wanted. So it's like they've built that, what do they say? The body immunity?
Herd immunity.
Yeah. So now people are not being affected as much, especially only the old people and the ones who have underlying issues. But it's like people have now gotten used to it. It is not affecting people anymore. So they have a different approach. And that approach is what Kenyans are even asking. What do they have that, and what do they know that we don't know? Because Kenyans are tired of wearing masks. Even the fine that Shiro said it was imposed on them, it was a lot of money, but still you find them, they want to bargain that is too much. So it's like, they find this thing is, the fine is there just to tell them they should wear masks. They should not go without masks. But to them, it's just like making fun. They want the fine to go lower so that they can afford it, which means they don't want to wear a mask.
Wow.
So even Kenya, okay, the government has been giving us the guidelines, what we should do. People don't just want to do it. They'll ask you who has died, whom have you had? Have you have a friend or a relative who has died of corona? So until the other day when the politicians now started dying, I think because of that time they were just out all over, so they've been affected, most of them, they've started dying now, is when slowly people have started believing that there's corona, but they're not so much convinced. They think the government is using corona thing just to get some money from somewhere. Okay.
Then after this, I'll just hand it over to Keshi, who has a topic about corona restrictions and schools still being open.
So we are still continuing with the corona theme, but we'll do a quick one about schools being open. And I thought this was interesting because recently New York City, everyone knows New York was an epicenter at some point, and they had massive lockdowns the first time around. And now after the summer holidays, corona is spiking up again there, and now it's Thanksgiving. So the mayor of New York and the governor, they had some restrictions introduced, and one of the restrictions was that schools were to close because of corona, raising corona infections. And the parents were outraged because restaurants and bars are open. They have a curfew, they close at 10 p.m., but schools are closed. So the question is, why should schools be closing and restaurants and bars be open? And these very kids who should not be going to school are the very same ones who can go to those restaurants and get infected. So what do you people think? How is it in your country? Are schools open? And if not, and if yes, what do you think about that? Yes, Shakira.
Personally, I've only heard of one gymnasium, which is, I think, college in England, that's been closed, and that's because so many people got it there. But my own school is still open, and even though we are, like, it's a mandate that you have to wear masks in the hallways, and you're not allowed to, like, smoke on school grounds because you have to take off your mask to do that, obviously. But I know that my classmates don't care. I know that they've, like, hung out with each other outside with other people, even though we're not supposed to hang out with other people from other classes. And also, before it was, like, the rule was implemented that you have to wear a mask in the hallways, I had a classmate who, because I wore mine from my house to my classroom, and then I finally took it off when I sat down. But he just turned around and he was like, "Oh, it's only a rule on Thursday, right?" And I just feel like that just encompasses the whole, like, viewpoint of them all being open, all these schools, because he just thinks that COVID is taking a break until, like, for 4 days, just until Thursday. Like, I don't even know.
So in your opinion, Shakira, should schools remain open or should they be closed?
Closed.
Anyone else? Universities? Antonella?
I am an university student, and at the moment, universities in Italy are closed. So we do online classes. And here, schools, high schools and university are closed since March 2020.
Wow.
No, from March until now.
Yeah. So, I mean, once again, I'm seeing a different approach. That's why I point out that there should be better and bigger implementation of dialogue and cooperation. So all the European countries, no one is better than the other. Because once we will start once again to travel, and so the problem will be still there. Countries cannot be so different. They should all agree. But by the way, now children till 12 years old, so elementary schools and the first 3 years of middle schools, they can go in presence. But the final decision of sending or not the kid to school is up to the parents. So the schools are open, but anyway, high schools and universities are closed, and they, politicians and also scientists have explained this decision. That the problem is not the fact that schools or universities are open, is the fact of public transportation. That's the issue. And so they are trying, at the moment, Italy has 20 regions. Now we have 3 colors, 3 criteria, yellow, orange, and red, according to the gravity and the number of infected people. Where the region is red, they don't go. Every school is closed. While yellow and orange regions, so with the medium and affordable level of gravity, only schools till 12 years old are open, but the others still online. And this current decree law is till the 3rd December. On the 3rd December, they will once again speak, because here the situation is changing so quickly. At the moment, we have 100 cases per day in Italy. 100 people dying.
Thank you. And before Jamila, I give you the word, I just wanted to say I've seen some reasons being given for schools remaining open. I've even had that reasoning here in Denmark, that it's not just our children's education that's at risk, but it's also their social and emotional safety and well-being, that they need to go to school, they need to be there playing with their playmates, they need that interaction. Some children have bad home situations, and going to school is a relief. So some people give these reasons as to why schools should be open, because they say that schools are not super spreaders. So the age, elementary school, especially that age group, and kindergartners, they, even if they get corona, the seriousness of the infection will not be as serious as if we get older people, older students. So in that kind of reasonings, I've had it not just here in Denmark, but around the world. What do you students feel? Do you feel that your emotional safety and well-being and social life is better when you are being allowed to go to school? Jamila?
Yeah, I will add to that as well. But what Antonella was saying, there's, these type of, like you said, we shouldn't be comparing ourselves. We should work together instead. And it's crazy because we have the same type of system, but it's tiers instead, tier 1, 2, and 3. But the way you've done it is so much smarter than the UK. The UK had the weakest restrictions for these tiers. You had no schools open in tier 3. We had, our schools were still open, the bars are closed, but you can still meet. It was just all over the place, and it wasn't organized. So I think that if we actually wanted to work together, we would all be able to be at a good place right now. Because we've still got the same ideas. It's just one of us is incompetence in that type of thing. But with the whole school situation, I do think that younger kids, it's a big issue, because it's also the parents. The parents need to be working, but their kids are all over the place. And some people have to, they don't have anyone to take care of the kids who are close to them. So it's very difficult in that. And then also children need to be social when they're growing up. It's especially if they're tiny. Like obviously when we're older, we do need to be social, but it's not something, we know it's happening. We know the pandemic's happening, whereas most small kids don't really understand what's going on. So they're going to be like, why am I not outside? Why am I stuck in the house all the time? So yeah.
Yeah, thanks. McKenna?
I agree with what Mil was saying, but I think it's also like it should be everyone, not everyone, but like all students of all age, because, or at least reaching up to high school and college, because I know like when I was in lockdown and I couldn't go to college, obviously, and college is the only place that I went to really like before lockdown. It was like it was having an impact on me and my mental being, even though before I was quite like I was just in a good place. So I think like especially for people who are younger and going through like harder situations like home and just mental wise, they should remain open, because like that's the only place you're going. And it's like if you're just stuck at home all the time, it's like your thoughts start to just eat away at you. So I was like, I'm happy that my college is still open, but I think they just need to make more restrictions. But yeah.
Thank you. And Kinda, I saw you wanted to say something.
Yeah, because I am in university and my daughter, she is in school. In university, all the session is now online. Well, I can do it when I am at home, but my daughter, she's still going to school. And we need to use the bus every day 2 times at morning and afternoon. And I feel it's like, should the university still open? I can go, or everything should be closed. What's the reason I am staying at home? I'm doing online, and my daughter, she is going to school. How I can protect my daughter, but I can't protect all the kids in school. And I think have more than 20 students in her class. How I can know everyone from which family coming, or if the school just at morning just use the sanitizer when the kids going inside the school. But I'm not sure when in playground before eating lunch. I don't know what's happening in school. I feel should be everything it's closed or everything it's still open. What's the reason something it's closed and something it's open? I really can't understand that.
Thank you. And
But
she,
I prefer the school still open, because when it's a lockdown, I can see my daughter. She is just now she is 6. Yeah, she start to feel we should stay at home. She start to feel scared to go out. Maybe she can't understand what the virus is. She said, if I eat that, I can't eat anything outside. I can't do anything. I can't play. I can't do anything. She starts scared from anything. Yeah, I prefer no. I think she's fine more than better. She's better than when we just staying at home.
Yeah.
Shiko, and then Shiro.
Yeah, what Kinder said, everything should either be open or everything shut. It's so ironic that in New York, Keshi, you're saying that they're complaining why are pubs open and schools shut, and here in the UK, we're asking why are pubs and restaurants closed and schools are open. It's weird. It's either you close everything or you leave everything open. In terms of mental well-being, and I'm not trying to minimize this, but we've just had Antonella here who said that in Italy, the schools have been shut since March. We're so lucky to live in a time uh, compared to, for example, when there was a Spanish flu. We live in a time where we have the internet. Not everyone does, but there's ways to connect with people. Outside. Obviously, we need to think about the kids, like Keshi said, who are maybe getting abused or whatever at home. So there's no school is an escape. But in terms of the bigger picture and numbers of people dying, um, isn't it better to do a short-term full lockdown and manage the situation than have kids going to school then every 2 weeks? And parents have told me this, every couple of weeks somebody has got corona, so your kids are told they can't go to school, they need to be in isolation, they stay in isolation for 10 days, then they go to school, they go another month, and then somebody else gets corona, and they keep just being sent back and forth. It doesn't make sense. I just feel it's better to have a proper full lockdown for a number of weeks, complete lockdown, nothing is open, manage the situation, then let everyone go in, rather than this back and forth, start and stop, which I think is more harmful to people.
Yeah, and last comment, Shiro. Although we had and Doria, Maybe he would have liked to say something about school. Ndori, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah. What do you think? Are the schools open in Nairobi, Kenya, where you are?
Some classes are going to school. I think class 4, 8, and Form 4, all of these are the final years. They'll be doing the exams soon, so they have to go.
And how
But the
do you
rest of
feel?
us, we have to go to in January.
How do you feel about staying home and not going to school? Is it all right with you as a student?
Yeah, I'm fine, but there are probably others who have problems with this.
So for you, it's okay. You think it's better than getting corona?
Yeah, I am.
Good. How about you, Shiro?
Personally, as a parent, I feel the schools should be opened, especially for the older children, because in Kenya we are having a very serious problem because the parents are not at home to supervise or take care of the children, so they're just roaming around, and we have reports of hundreds, if not thousands, of young teenage girls getting pregnant, and they're supposed to be in school. So some parents feel that it's better if they're in school. They're actually safer in school than walking around. The children won't stay at home. At least I know here they don't. I don't know about Denmark or the UK. They will not stay at home if the parents are not there. So as soon as the parents leave, the kids are out. The young girls are very naive and vulnerable. They are taken advantage of. I feel it's better they put very strict measures to protect the children in school, and the children go back to school. Now, the problem in Kenya, of course, as you know, is that the government needs to provide enough desks and water and all that for enough for the children to protect them. But me, I feel they should be in school because they've been out of school since March, just like Antonella was talking about Italy. That's a very long time for the learners to be out of school.
And just to point out, to ask, in Kenya, you don't have a lockdown really. It's just that schools are closed.
It's not a lockdown. It's just some restrictions like wearing masks and a curfew. It's not a strict lockdown. And I agree with what Shiko had said. It would have been better if we had had a complete lockdown for a month or two than these endless restrictions that are really messing up people's lives and even the education system.
Interesting. Thank you for the comments. Now we've heard from people around different parts of the world, different contexts, that really restrictions and lockdowns can be different from depending on where you are, and the repercussions are also different. In Kenya, we hear that now they have a problem of teenage pregnancies with girls being taken advantage of. So this really is something people have never actually had to confront. So it's really something to think about, for governments to think about what is the best solution for that specific context that you are in, and then how do you implement it so that it benefits the whole society and community.